Hello dear fans. Features of industrialization in the USSR. There are not so many features of industrialization in the USSR. But each of them fully and completely reflects the Stalinist political system that existed then in the USSR. Only under this system it was possible in such a short time to turn a single agrarian country into an industrial power, sacrificing a huge number of lives of its fellow citizens for this. Almost all developed countries of the world by the 30s of the last century completed the process of industrializing their economies. And only the USSR, for various reasons, remained an agrarian country. The country's leadership saw this as a threat to the very existence of Soviet power. Therefore, at the end of the 20s, a course was taken to carry out radical transformations in the Soviet economy. Internal reserves of industrialization. The Soviet government could not count on help from abroad to carry out industrialization. It remained to rely only on internal reserves. This was one of its main features. These reserves were mainly in the agricultural sector. Therefore, industrialization was carried out mainly at the expense of agriculture. That is why it was preceded by the massive collectivization of the peasants. And it was precisely collectivization that made it possible to concentrate all food resources in the hands of the state, to sell a significant part of them abroad, and with the proceeds from this to purchase imported industrial equipment. It was precisely collectivization, having ruined the peasants, created an inexhaustible supply of cheap labor for the industrial giants being built. And it was precisely collectivization that gave impetus to a sharp increase in the number of prisoners in the Gulag, whose slave labor was later used on the grandiose construction sites of the great industrialization. Industrialization results. It took a little more than 2 5-year plans to implement the grandiose industrial construction program. In such a short period of time, more than 9,000 new factories, dozens of hydroelectric power plants and coal mines were built in the country. In terms of production volumes, the USSR took second place in the world, not catching up with only the United States in this indicator. The share of industrial production in the country's economy has reached 70%. At first glance, a blissful picture emerged. However, there was no tangible rise in the standard of living of the Soviet people. Moreover, in the early years of industrialization, it declined markedly. There was an acute shortage of food. Hundreds of thousands of people died of hunger. There is nothing surprising in this. After all, the state threw all the available resources on industrialization. Food was exported abroad. And heavy industry developed rapidly to the detriment of light industry. Hence, the acute shortage of consumer goods. In addition, the Gulag gradually turned into a kind of separate branch of the economy based on the slave labor of prisoners whose lives were literally sacrificed to industrialization. That there is only one Balaamur-Baltic Canal, built literally on the bones of prisoners of the Gulag. Thanks for watching.